Hey, True Believers. Today on our YouTube channel, we're going over X-Force issue 10. And I absolutely enjoyed this book. There's a lot of high octane, followed by moments of these existential questions that we get from certain characters. Now, before we dive into this, the print date on this comic book was May of 1992. And the primary focus on this comic is Gideon, Kane, Strife, and what's his name? Cannonball. Because you learn some things in the last few issues that we've gone over about, what's his name, Sam being immortal, and what does that mean when he gets tied in to Gideon. But before we even get into the existential stuff, it's just a full-on battle, Kane versus the entire Mutant Liberation Front. And what I love in terms of the visual storytelling is how he goes in and thinks he's going to get his butt kicked. You're like, how the hell is this? But you got to remember, he's augmented by the weapons department, like the Weapon X division. So he takes out Wildside, just boom. Then he goes in for forearm. And I just love how, as it happens, he's just able to boom, 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 take him down like so much easy tissue. And then the intensity of like we're getting this full-on action, Gideon has to meet with his fellow externals. So this book kind of reveals who the externals are, what that has to do with Gideon, and I always forget her name. Is it Cassandra? The blonde that was basically goading on the Thieves Guild and the Assassins Guild, trying to make them, give them the different elixirs and whatnot, but you find out that she's a external as well. But they're not happy with Gideon, because if you remember, Gideon essentially, I think it was what murdered his father, murdered Sunspot's father, and then coaxed Robert DaCosta to try to take over the company. And in this book, you find out why he lured DaCosta away from the team. And the rest of the externals are not happy with the outcome because it was not what they had planned. But then we go back into the battle and just look at this, how you saw him take Wildside out and then forearm, just boom. And it's all thanks to the way he's been augmented. And then he goes against a guy named Sumo, and he's just able to increase the mass in one of his fists and just boom, take him down. And here, go back a page here. And I like how we're about 4 or 5 pages in, and we haven't really gotten to the main beginning where we see the credits. This is all build up into this story. So we see how Kane is finally eventually captured. Strife removes his mask, revealing that he looks like Cable, which screws with Kane's mind. Now Gideon here, he's talking to another external named Nicodemus. He's like, I apologize for ignoring your splendid mill. You'd think, wouldn't you, after so many centuries, I would have come to accept another external's ways. We are immortal, Gideon. No one would ever say that would bring enlightenment. Speaking of immortals and enlightenment, the boy, Robert DaCosta. Now that you've learned that he is not the intended High Lord, what will become of him? And here, I just love how the split pages of Strife and Gideon. Strife first, saying, it's good to see you again, kid. Basically manipulating Kane face to face. And Gideon talking about DaCosta. He's a caring soul, Nicodemus. So even after centuries of hardship, he actually hopes for the best. Like where a dupe like DaCosta is concerned. Unfortunate though it may be, DaCosta will go the way of all flesh. Only sooner than he thinks. And this is called Answers and Questions. This is Robert Liefeld doing the plot. Fabian Nikiza doing the scripts. So we got what, where, and we have Mark Pasella doing the pencils. Who? Dan Pananosian doing the inks. How? Chris Yiannopoulos letters. When? Dan Moore said why. Bob Harris under sedation. And Tom DeFalco, questions. I miss when the creative team would do stuff like that and just kind of bring everyone in on the joke. But see what I mean is we didn't really get the credits intro until we really get to see what this book's about and how the difference menacings between the MLF and the externals. Now this is in the the aftermath of the battle that we've reviewed over the last few issues, where Sam seemingly dies. Like straight up flatline, but here he is standing up, and Tabitha is just absolutely mortified. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. And this book, as you can see with the artwork, is just full-on 90s cheese. I mean, look at those pouches and the muscles, the full-on, coming out of the 80s hair on Domino. It's just absolutely funny. Now, that aside, I miss the intensity, and I wish some of this would commit to the bit where they won the battle, they've killed Mask, and they've killed Sauron. And this is what I mean about comics with everyone always coming back. I wish that... Okay, let me give you an example. There's a subscriber that I talk to regularly. Cool cat, his name's Supertron, and he is flipping knowledgeable on a lot of comic trivia. Make sure to, if you see him in the comments, start up a conversation with him. He's really, he's got a lot of knowledge in there, and I love it when he shares. But he said something to the degree of, like, if he worked in comics, he would set it up where if they were planning on killing a character and if they were wanting to bring him back, there had to be like a 5-year rule. Instead of nowadays where, like, it was last year that they just killed Doctor Strange, and now he's back. They killed Wolverine, and I think it was like a year or two later, he's back. And Superman, it was like, what, a year and a half, something like that? So I think a 5-year thing would work really well, because it really takes the punch out of what the story was supposed to be about. And so that's saying how he's supposed to have killed Mask and Sauron. And another thing about this, spoiler alerts if you've not read X-Force or New Mutants. I mean, these are older. But nonetheless, pause the book, the review, go check out the book, and then come back. You find out that Sam is a High Lord. He's an external. You find out that the whole reason Cable came back in time, I think it was in issue 8, which allegedly is the first appearance of Domino. Anyway, with that said, the whole reason Cable came back in time was to groom Sam and protect him and raise him right. That's why he took the New Mutants and created X-Force instead. And it's just, I hate that, Nikezia was building this up. It was interesting. And then years later, they just let it go. Like, whatever. And I hate that. I understand certain things to be retconned. Like recently, retconning Wolverine's, the heat clause, that was stupid. But Sam, being able to ascend to this higher plane after him being kind of this dorky, lanky kid from the New Mutants era, to see him to ascend to that would have been interesting, and see him take out the the externals and try to make another plane of existence. I don't know, just to me that would have been interesting. But it was shortly after this that they retconned it, and no one gave a shit anymore, so it is what it is. But going back to the story, what I like is how they start to build this relationship between Boom Boom and Sam. Again, something I wish they would have pursued later on down the road, but of course they didn't. But as we get all this high octane with Kane and Strife, and then the tension with the externals, and then all these existential questions hitting Sam all at once, I like that Boom Boom kind of gives a little bit of levity to the whole story, where she comes in to report that they're trying to find the runaway Morlocks, because at this point the Morlocks and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants have teamed up, hence why Mask's working with Sauron, and they're trying to build this alliance. So they got to chase everyone else from their headquarters. And as she's trying to report, she goes, "Hey, Sam, everything working okay? As good as it always has. Why shouldn't it be?" And then Cable. I've always enjoyed Cable because you see him grow from the first time he had the team, where he was very hard-ass, to where he is still, but he cares. For example, he goes, "Understandably, Sam is having some difficulty accepting he died. Tabitha, where are your squad members?" Squad members? Sheesh. Hanging in the comm room, waiting to find out from you what our next plan is to do, mein Herr. And I always like Boom Boom because she's a smartass. That's why I've always enjoyed her. Her and Jubilee both. But here, even though this is like over-the-top 90s cheese, kind of a low Dutch angle, big swollen muscles, which is hilarious. But then Cable goes, "Good. Tomorrow we pay the Morlocks a little visit. Leave Mask's head on a pike as a gentle reminder to their next leader about what will happen to them if they try to cross X-Force again. And that's what I like about Cable, is just the intensity of him. And that's why I always like when him, Wolverine, and Bishop team up. They always got that hard-assness, and it just, boom, wall-to-wall action like it was in the Executioner song. Now, going back to existential questions, I'm not going to read all of this, but Stripe's trying to mess with Kane's head, and he's just going on and on trying to confuse Kane, and it's interesting. You got to read it. I don't want to go through all of it because that's a lot of reading, and I don't want you guys to be like, God, he's reading. But finally, Strife has had enough, and bam! Lovely, gorgeous artwork. Even though, again, lots of line work, and it has that 90s feel, it just works. And then we get back to Sam just saying, can I get sick? Can I grow old? Can I die? Boom, boom. I can't believe that. I can't start believing I'm immortal. He's like, can I get married? And can I have a family? I don't know, Sam. I'm scared. Me too. You know what the scariest thing of all? When you get a zit on the night of a big date? What am I going to tell my mom? And if you all remember, Sam is very much, he cares for his family because his father died in the mines of Kentucky. So he was always, set with always being the big brother that had to take care of the family, but then he left for Xavier's school. But everything that he does, he always thinks back to what his family will think. And that's just awesome. And I just wish there was more, even though they introduced Paige in Generation X, I wish there was more interaction between them, because you don't see a lot of him interacting with his family that I can recall off the top of my head. Now, to kind of wrap this up, we are reintroduced to Richter. According to online sources, it says that he reappeared in issue 11, which is the first-ish appearance of Domino, but we get the cameo saying how Richter's working for Department K, I think this is. He goes, Buenos dias, Senor Kane. Heard a lot of good things about you, dude. Gonna be a pleasure working with you. Especially if it means bringing Cable down. Because, he's got a chip on his shoulder because Cable is kind of the reason that a lot of people left the New Mutants. People died under his watch. So, there's a lot of reasons for Richter. He's misguided in what he thinks, thinking it's Cable's fault, but you can understand his angst. And I just love how he went, again, kind of like with Sam, went from being this unsure kid in the pages of X Factor to being on his own and being able to kick ass. Though I hated how he was a bad guy in Gambit and the X-Turtles. That kind of bugged, but it was interesting nonetheless. Now, with that said, if you guys have enjoyed what you've seen here in X-Force number 10, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little external bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.